Welcome back, everybody. We continue to feature the Great Lakes here on Local 4 Live. As we mentioned, it is Great Lakes Day, and the Great Lakes Commission is gathering in Washington, D.C. to talk with leaders and lawmakers about the important policies shaping the future of the lakes. This is a live look in the UP at the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum, where you can see Lake Superior off in the distance there. Now, we do want to shift that conversation from the economy to some of the greatest threats to our fresh water. For that, we have Ceci Weibert. She is with the Michigan Aquatic Invasive Species Program Coordinator with the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, also known as EGLE. Ceci, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You know, this is a silly question, so please forgive it, but there are so many invasive species, and I don't think people realize what a threat they pose. This is an ongoing conversation and not just a one-off thing, right?
Very much so,
Okay.
yes.
All right, so what are the biggest threats?
So in the terms of aquatic invasive species, things that we're really concerned about are the invasive carp species. So that's silver carp, black carp, bighead carp. That's what's coming up the Mississippi.
Yep.
And then we have grass carp right now in the western basin of Lake Erie. We also are concerned about invasive crayfish. So red swamp crayfish, the kind you eat, not great for our environment. Okay. And then plants, we have a number of submerged aquatic plants like hydrilla and parrot feather that cause a lot of issues with swimming and boating and in fish habitat.
You know, I think we've seen the most headlines on the invasive carp species.
Yes.
What is it about them that makes them a threat?
So what's unique about these fish relative to our native species is that they feed very low on the food chain. So when you're thinking about things that eat other things, these giant fish are eating what's at the very bottom. And so that reduces the amount of food that's available for everything else that's up the chain.
I see. Okay, so also a silly question. What do you do about it then? You just go trap all of them? Like, how do you fix this?
So right now, prevention is, of course, the greatest cure. So we are working ongoing communications with Illinois and the federal government to work on Brandon Road to prevent the introduction of silver carp, bighead carp into the Great Lakes through the Chicago area waterway system. And for grass carp, we have...
Wait, can you back up. They're trying to introduce it?
No.
Okay.
They're in the Mississippi River right now, swimming up to Lake Michigan. We don't want that.
Them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there's a barrier that's been proposed to augment some existing electrical barriers in that system to prevent that movement.
Okay, but that would take money then, right? Is that our big problem?
Communications are ongoing about that, yes.
Spoken like a true state employee. You can't say much of it there, right? Okay, so and you were saying the other issue then.
Yes, so grass carp is one that we have in the western basin of Lake Erie, and unlike those other carp species that feed on the lower chain of the food web, they eat a lot of plants, which, again, bad for anything that wants to live in those plants. So we have a concerted effort with the state of Ohio, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, USGS, the province of Ontario to really work together in that portion of Lake Erie, since it's a shared resource. And it's a combination of catch, trapping, trying to prevent their spawning, understand where they might be reproducing, things like that.
All right, so please forgive this question. I feel like I'm apologizing for every question I
love
have,
this.
But if someone says they just don't care about this, just let them run amok, do whatever they want, what would happen to the Great Lakes?
There would be a real fundamental shift in what our Great Lakes look like. And I don't just mean that on an ecological scale. I also mean in the way in which we can go out and enjoy those, the Great Lakes waters and wetlands. So invasive species, they outcompete our native species. So that's bad for me, right? I like ecological diversity, as we all should. But it also means less sport fishing opportunities, less waterfowl hunting opportunities. There's a human health component. If you think of zebra mussels and their shells, I'm sure we've all seen shells on the beach. They can cut your feet. The growth of aquatic plants can tangle your boat motor or interrupt your swimming. So there's a lot of impacts that's goes beyond the ecological and into the human health and recreation.
That's how we get more people to care about it, is when we say, you can't fish anymore. Now we care.
I care about it all.
You call all the time, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm not sure how much of this you can answer, but how difficult are these conversations when you go to Washington and you work with our lawmakers saying, we need the money to put this electric barrier in, to do these things? Is the appetite there to do it?
I would say that there's been really broad bipartisan support for a funding program called the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. So this is something that was introduced under the Obama administration in 2010 and continues to be funded again at a bipartisan scale in the years since. There's a really strong caucus, the Great Lakes Caucus up on the Hill, that does a really great job of advocating for our needs. So I would say that there's a really strong mobilized effort there, and this is an issue that transcends political boundaries, and we can all sort of get on the same page that we like the Great Lakes and we want to protect them.
Now, that conversation probably, though, gets a little more difficult when you're talking about money, though, because we want to protect them. We want it to be beautiful. We want to fish. We want a boat. But to fund these things becomes a whole different challenge, right?
The Great Lakes Restoration Initiative is a funding program.
Okay.
So that appropriates, I believe it was about $375 million this past fiscal year for work. You know, beyond that, those conversations are always thorny and difficult, but we have enjoyed that great success of the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative.
It's probably, I'm assuming, so if I'm wrong, tell me, but it's an easier conversation statewide versus federally because we know what beautiful lakes we have.
We have also been really lucky with our state legislature. Yes, so there was a proposal for change several years ago that actually integrated invasive species funding into the state budget. So many states have to rely on the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. Our state legislature recognizes the value of these lakes and the value of that resource, and they stepped up and said, yes, this is something that is important that we are going to fund through the state legislature. So,
you know, we also had the conversation about the economy and how it's tied to the Great Lakes. I would assume, again, tell me if I'm wrong, that if we don't keep tabs on these invasive issues, then the economy could take a hit.
Oh, absolutely. So everything from, you know, commercial fishing operations, if those fish stocks were to collapse, to things like your local utilities. Zebra mussels, they love water intake pipes. They're hard. There's lots of water flowing through them, and they can really clog those. So we would feel those effects.
Don't wait utility rates.
We would feel those effects at a broad scale if the invasive species were to sort of move unchecked throughout the system.
Gotcha. Okay, so last question for you. If I am just Joe and Sally Smith at home watching this, I don't want to say why should I care because you hit that now. How do we help?
The best thing to do is clean, drain, dry anytime you're out in the ecosystem. So whether you're in the water or you're on land, you need to clean anything that interacts with the environment. You don't know what could be moving seeds, what could be moving mud. So things like your boat, your waders, your dog. We say clean that, drain any standing water, and then let anything dry that's been in the water for at least 5 days. And then the other really big issue in Michigan is the release of pets. You know, things like fish from aquariums or plants from your water garden. It might seem like the humane thing to do, but, you know, a couple individuals will end up wreaking havoc on a much larger native system. So if you have purchased something from a store as a pet or a plant, dispose of it responsibly.
That is amazing. Okay, Ceci, thank you so much for your time. You and I could talk for hours over this, so Mary says we're out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.